Exposed, Grandmother's incredible journey from shame to life-changing love after 5 years. Evelyn sat in the dusty old rocking chair, the gentle creak echoing in the silent farmhouse. Ghosts of laughter and joy filled the air, remnants of her late husband's warm presence haunting the walls. It had been 5 long years since George had passed, and with each tick of the clock, her heart felt heavier. The sunlight that once poured through the kitchen window now struggled against grime, a sad reflection of the state of her spirit. Outside, the garden was wild and untamed, just like her turbulent emotions. Every petal that had once bloomed in the floral orchestra of her life had now withered and fallen. Feeling the sting of shame creeping in, Evelyn battled thoughts that whispered she was less than whole without him. The gossip in town wasn't cruel, but it felt judgmental. They meant well, bringing her casseroles and checking in, yet Evelyn felt like an old rug worn out, trampled, and ready to be tossed aside. She couldn't help but feel isolated, living under the watchful eyes of a community that once adored her. And George's spring arrived. It brought more than blooming flowers. It brought her grandson Jake home from college. Full of energy and fresh ideas, he burst into the house with enthusiasm, but to Evelyn, it felt like a storm. "Graham, we need to modernize the farm. Think about a local produce stand, or even a farm-to-table restaurant. We can do so much." His bright eyes, filled with dreams, only reminded her how far removed they were from the life they knew. Their conversations quickly spiraled into fierce arguments, the air thick with tension. Each session ended not with resolutions but heartache. She clung to memories of George, proud of their roots and the life they built together, while Jake seemed to be tearing it down. "What's the point of all this?" she exclaimed one night, tears streaming down her weathered cheeks. "You don't understand what this farm means. It holds our history. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let's continue. Just when despair threatened to engulf her, neighbors began to show up at her door. At first, it was just a plate of cookies. Then a group showed up to help prune the overgrown garden, their collective laughter pouring life back into the space. She felt a flicker of warmth as they shared stories about George, rekindling the roots of community she thought had faded away. Slowly, Evelyn found herself planting seeds not just in the soil, but within her relationship with Jake. They began to work together, blending old traditions with new ideas. Just as the farm started to flourish, an unexpected revelation shattered their newfound harmony, a family secret lurking in the shadows, causing Evelyn to question everything she believed about love and loyalty. As she stood in her garden, tears misting her eyes, she felt the pull of the past and the determination for the future clashing within her. What path would she choose when everything she once knew was thrown into chaos? She had the community backing her, a renewed sense of purpose, yet the delicate threads of truth threatened to unravel it all. Before she could contemplate her next steps, an unexpected knock on the door echoed through the farmhouse, sealing her fate and leaving her heart racing with uncertainty about what lay ahead. Evelyn's heart raced as she opened the door, her breath hitching. Standing there was a tall, lean figure with familiar features. It was Howard, George's brother. She hadn't seen him since the funeral. His presence stirred a whirlwind of emotions: longing, anger, nostalgia, and part of her wanted to slam the door shut. "Evelyn," he said softly, his eyes searching hers. "I know it's been a while, but I needed to come see you." Instinctively, she felt defensive. Howard had been a part of the family but had distanced himself after George's death. "What do you want?" Her voice was steadier than she felt, yet there was a tremor that betrayed her. He sighed, guilt etching lines on his brow. "I heard about the farm and what you and Jake are trying to do. I wanted to help." "Help?" She crossed her arms, skepticism etched across her face. "Where were you when we were drowning in sorrow? You didn't come to see if I was okay." I know I should have been there." His voice was heavy with regret. It took me a long time to process. He paused, as if grappling with how to dig through those old emotions. To process losing George and to face you. Evelyn's heart hung in the balance. Part of her wanted to believe him. They shared a bond of grief, but hurt had grown too. Why now? Because there are things you don't know about George, about the farm. And I think it's time to talk. The sincerity in his voice cracked her resolve. Hesitating, she stepped aside, allowing him in. The door creaked, as if lamenting their shared pain that entered with him. They sat at the old kitchen table, familiar yet distant, like ghosts of a life that once was. Years ago, George made some mistakes, Howard began, his voice barely above a whisper. I didn't want to tell you. I thought it would break your heart more than it already was. Evelyn felt her breath hitch again. What mistakes? The air grew thick, wrapping around them like a heavy blanket. He took on debt more than I ever knew before. He thought he could save the farm when the economy turned, but it spiraled out of control. I swear, he didn't want to burden you. He loved you too much for that. The words hit her like cold water, shocking her system. Why didn't you come forward before? Why let me believe I was left with nothing? I thought you would be better off without that weight. I was wrong, and I'm sorry. He looked down, a quiet regret draping over him. But it's not too late. We can fix this together. The prospect filled her with both dread and an unexpected thrill. Could she confront the past and still cultivate the garden of her future? Evelyn knew she had to reclaim her life and the legacy George had left behind. But as Howard spoke of solutions, a darker thought gnawed at the edges of her mind. If George had secrets, how many more truths lingered in their family tree? Jake would want to know. She was suddenly unsure if they could ever truly heal. Just then, the front door swung open once more. Jake stepped in, backpack slung over his shoulder, unaware of the storm brewing within the walls of their home. Hey, Graham. Did you see the seed catalog? We need to order the heirloom tomatoes today. The tension thickened. Evelyn glanced at Howard, the burden of truth weighed heavily on her. Would she share everything with Jake? Or keep it all a secret, risking their bond? With both men in her life, the crossroads of her past and future lay before her. But as she opened her mouth to speak, the words caught like thorns in her throat. Hope danced just out of reach, mingled with a fear that threatened to engulf her. What if uncovering the past meant losing her future? Would the truths she had kept hidden tear them apart, or could they stitch together a stronger bond? The air crackled with uncertainty as she faced her grandson. Would she choose to stand firm in her truth or protect them from the shadows that loomed ahead? Evelyn's heart thudded in her chest as she met Jake's bright, eager eyes. He was so young, so full of life. She could see the joyful innocence in him, and it momentarily erased the heaviness that had settled over her. But that innocence felt fragile in the face of everything she had just learned. Graham, did you hear me? Jake tilted his head, a confused smile on his face. He could sense something was off, a subtle shift in the air. Evelyn swallowed hard, searching for words while the weight of Howard's revelation pressed down on her. She needed to protect Jake, but how could she do that without lying to him? Yeah, sweet pea. I heard you, she said, forcing a smile. Just got lost in thought, I guess. About the farm? He asked, his eyes lighting up. We're going to make it look amazing this spring. The heirloom tomatoes will be so good. The thought of the farm made her stomach twist, the debts, the struggles, and the hidden truths entwined like a tangled vine. She glanced at Howard, whose brow was furrowed with concern. He was an uninvited messenger who had brought chaos back into her life. Yeah, about the farm, she finally said, her voice shaking slightly. Jake, there is something we need to discuss. Howard shifted in his chair, as if preparing to step in, but Evelyn raised her hand. No, she had to do this. There are things about your grandfather, she started, her voice fading as she fought against the fear curling within her. Suddenly, she felt a surge of bravery, spurred on by the idea that maybe not just for her but for Jake, the truth was worth the pain. Jake, your grandpa, he took on a lot of debt to keep the farm running. I found out just recently that he tried to save it, but it didn't work out the way he hoped. Jake blinked, processing. Debt? Like, money? Yes, she breathed, her heart breaking at the confusion on his face. It's part of the reason things have been so hard. But I thought we were going to make it better. He looked up at her, a mix of fear and anger bubbling in his blue eyes. Are we going to lose everything? The farm? The garden? No. She reached out and took his hand, feeling the warmth of his small fingers in her shaking grip. We're not losing it. We just have some work to do. We can fix it together, I promise. Howard leaned forward, tension still etched on his face. Jake, your grandma loves that farm, and we can breathe new life into it. If you're willing to work with us, we can make it thrive again. Evelyn watched as Jake considered the words. Her heart swelled with pride for his spirit, yet she felt that old fear creeping back in. Could they really overcome this? Together, Jake repeated slowly, his youthful determination shining through. We can fix it. That's right, Evelyn affirmed, squeezing his hand tighter. Together. Jake finally smiled, a genuine one that lit up his face, and for a moment, the clouds of doubt lifted. But that fleeting moment of joy was overshadowed by the storm brewing in her heart. Even as hope sparked, questions axed at her with jagged edges. What other secrets hung over them? Was Howard's return truly a blessing or simply another layer of complication? As she faced Jake, something heavy tugged in her gut, the fear that revealing too much might fracture their bond. Could she guard him from the past while building a future? Her gaze flickered to Howard, and then back to Jake. She felt a tremor at the thought of the storm that had not yet blown through. Could a family reborn from the ashes of tragedy find peace? Or would the weight of the past suffocate them just when they needed to breathe? Graham? Jake's small voice pulled her from her thoughts. Are you okay? With a shaky breath, Evelyn nodded, though uncertainty lingered like a shadow. Yeah, sweet pea, I'm okay, but we have to make some tough choices. As together they leaned into the future, the door to their past creaked ominously in the background. Would the truths that awaited them lead to healing, or would they unleash destruction? The journey ahead felt uncertain, but they had each other. And that had to count for something. The real question remained, was confronting their history the key to freeing their future, or were they stepping deeper into a tangled web of family secrets that could tear them apart once more? Evelyn pulled her gaze back to Jake, seeing the flicker of determination in his eyes, but also the subtle grip of worry. She didn't want to crush his spirit with the weight of the world, yet the truth hovered dangerously close. They really needed to talk, but where to even begin? How about we start working on the garden soon, she suggested, her voice barely louder than a whisper. Fresh air always helps clear the mind. That's a great idea. We can plant the tomatoes first. Jake chirped, excitement igniting a spark in his voice. His enthusiasm warmed her chest, but as they approached the window, a chill wind rustled the old oaks outside. The very trees that had stood as silent witnesses to their family's struggles felt foreboding now. Howard stood up, breaking the moment. I can help with the preparations this weekend if that works for you both. We can put our heads together and figure out the debt situation too. Evelyn's stomach churned. She wanted to push that conversation away. That sounds good, she said, even though doubt clawed inside her. She didn't know if they could dig their way out of the mess her husband had made. Jake caught her hand and squeezed, grounding her. We'll make it really nice, Graham. The best tomatoes in the county. She nodded, willing her smile to hold as she brushed away the thoughts lurking in the corners of her mind. Whatever had happened, they'd face it together. The next day, they bundled up against the spring chill and headed outside, the sun peeking through the clouds like the world dared to hope. Jake bounded ahead, his energy infectious as he envisioned his plans for the garden. Evelyn observed him, reminded of all the innocence she had nearly lost in her own heart, and something about watching him curled warmth around her anxieties. Let's start with the sunny patch over there, he called, pointing at a section with bright sunflowers. I can practically taste the fresh salsa already. Evelyn laughed, a sound that felt hesitant yet genuine. We'll need the peppers for that too. They got to work, side by side in the cool earth. Evelyn taught him how to mix the soil, the labor a soothing balm for her nerves. For a while, it felt as if their troubles were a world away, just an afterthought overshadowed by the promise of growth and renewal. Halfway through the afternoon, a brisk breeze swept through. As she straightened to wipe the sweat from her brow, she caught Howard's eyes. He stood a quiet distance away, hands shoved in his pockets, lost in thought. She sensed the weight of secrets even there, swirling in the mist that crept along the fence line. Suddenly, an unsettling energy rippled through her. Graham? Jake's voice was soft, pulling her back from the edge of her own mind. What's wrong? Evelyn exhaled deep, shaking her head to clear the fog. Nothing, sweetheart. Just thinking about everything. Jake didn't seem convinced. About how we need to fix the farm, right? Or is it something about Grandpa? Evelyn felt her heart tilt like a fragile flower in a storm. She opened her mouth to speak, but Howard's cautious presence loomed beside them. Evelyn, he began, but she cut him off. Jake, let us stay focused on the garden for now. The boy nodded, but the innocence she had fought so hard to protect was under siege. She needed to find a way to stand firm against what was unraveling on the horizon. Hours passed as they worked in the sun, the rhythm of tilling earth comforting yet unpredictable. But whenever her thoughts veered to the shadows of their past, the urge to share the whole truth weighed heavily on her. As twilight approached, the dusk settled like quiet thoughts, wrapping them in its embrace. They washed their hands in the garden hose, the cold water a shock against hot skin. Graham, Jake said hesitantly, when will we talk about Grandpa? His simple question cracked through her composure. Soon. She could barely manage that one word, feeling the barrier she had built starting to crumble. Promise? He urged, his earnest gaze steady on hers. I promise, she murmured, but the truth was so complex. She felt the walls of her resolve allowing cracks, echoing the uncertainty that reverberated within her. Inside, she realized, lay burdens they would have to face, impossible messes to untangle. What if secrets held lurking dangers? As night fell, concern loomed from every corner. Was she prepared to confront the past, to lay bare the truth? The evening air turned still, holding its breath with her. Was this the calm before their storm, or was it a chance to finally take action? The weight of the choice felt limitless, but the fear of what came next loomed over them all. How long could the ground beneath them hold strong? As the stars began to pepper the sky, casting a soft glow over the garden, Evelyn felt the warm earth cradle her hands. But the weight in her heart quickened. They worked in silence, each shovelful of dirt a reminder of the barriers that needed to fall. Jake's enthusiasm was tangible as he chattered away, his laughter ringing bright against the darkness settling in. He spoke of plans, of farming dreams that twinkled like the stars. Yet, each word stood in stark contrast to what Evelyn had to reveal. Her thoughts swirled, and the knot in her gut tightened. Finally, as if sensing the shift in her mood, Jake paused. Graham, you look tired. Want me to take a break? His brow furrowed with honest concern, the way only a child could give. Evelyn forced a smile, but the laughter in Jake's eyes dimmed. I'm okay, sweetheart. Just thinking about the future. The words felt heavier than stones. What kind of future? Jake probed, tilting his head with innocence that both melted her heart and hollowed it out. The air felt electric, charged with unspoken truths and fervent hopes. Evelyn stood still, contemplating how to split the chrysalis of her fears. Future like the garden, you know? It needs to be nurtured to grow. But as she spoke, her heart knew she could only postpone the inevitable for so long. It gnawed at her a quiet, relentless echo. When would she share the phantoms of Howard's past? The looming debts? The shadow of a man who had brought both joy and despair into their lives. As if reading her thoughts, Howard finally stepped closer, breaking the stillness. Evelyn, the sooner we tackle this, the better. We can no longer afford to ignore what is happening. Their eyes locked, and for a moment, the world around them fell silent. Right now, the focus is on the garden, not the mess, she insisted, her voice firm but quivering. It was a small respite, the last blue light of dusk standing between them. You can't keep avoiding it. Howard's tone was gentle, but his words struck a nerve. Everything must come to light, Evelyn. The past won't just disappear. Would you let the boy hear this? She gestured to Jake, who peered up at them with a puzzled expression. The loneliness in her heart felt more pronounced with each passing moment, and all she could think was how fragile it all was. I think he deserves to understand. Howard's insistence felt like a small cracking of ice beneath their feet. He's old enough to hear. We can do this together. Evelyn's resolve crumbled just a little more. The garden, once an escape, became a battleground for the truth. How long could she keep the walls up for Jake? Maybe, she exhaled, the word hanging between them, but it must be the right time. Jake interjected, pulling on her hand, but I'm ready to know. I want us to be a team. Like in the garden. The earnestness in his voice pushed at her heart. They stood at crossroads, a blend of hope and fear. Was he strong enough to weather their family's storms? As the stars brightened above them, she felt the enormity of what she'd have to confront. The battle lines blurred, planting seeds of clarity amid weeds of confusion hung heavy in the air. With each breath, Evelyn wrestled with the choice. She wanted him to understand, but what if she couldn't protect his heart? Would their trust survive the truths that lay buried deep? The night stretched ahead, filled with promise and peril. How much longer could the fabric of their family withstand the unraveling? Evelyn stood at the edge, peering into the darkness, where shadows waited for the dawn, knowing that once they crossed that line, there would be no turning back. Was she ready for the truth to finally emerge? The night air hung heavy with unsaid words, and for Evelyn, the garden felt like the quiet before a storm. She looked down at Jake, his eyes wide with expectation, shining like the stars above. He was ready. He believed they could face anything together. Yet, could he really? The thought sent a chill through her. Jake, they had filled the spaces with chatter before, but now, the silence filled the air. I need you to wait a moment. She knelt, meeting his eyes. There are things about our family, things I haven't shared with you. Confusion crossed his face. Like what? Are we going to grow something new in the garden? His innocent optimism tugged at her heartstrings, but now wasn't the time to hide. Not quite, my love, she whispered, there are weeds that we have to pull before the flowers can bloom. Howard stepped forward, his eyes capturing Evelyn's with a firmness she had yet to show. He deserves to know, Evelyn. Perhaps it's time to let him see the whole garden, even the parts that feel dark. Evelyn nodded slowly, taking a deep breath. The tension in her chest felt like a tight band around her. Okay, she said finally, steadying her voice. But I need you to promise me you'll stay strong. No matter what. Jake's gaze darted between the two adults, sensing the weight of the moment. I can be strong. I promise. There was nothing but determination in that tiny voice. All right then. She felt her resolve cracking, but this, too, was part of the journey. As she overlaid her fingers with Jake's, her heart began to race. A while ago, your grandfather made some choices that left us with debts. Choices that made life harder for us. Debts? Jake's eyes widened. What kind of debts? They were about money, things that should have been done differently, she explained, searching for the right words. But it's complicated. The debt can be overwhelming, and it's tied to things in the past Howard cut in gently. Some of it involves people who didn't follow through on promises. Evelyn saw Jake's brow furrow, processing it all. People hurt you? His voice was soft but fierce. Yes, it was because they hurt us, she confirmed, her heart stumbling over the truth. And that pain, it spread through our family, like a weed in the garden. Jake frowned, his small hands gripping the shovel handle tightly. But you still garden, right? You still make things grow. Yes, she replied, hers trembling with emotion. We fight for what we love. Every season brings new challenges. But we can learn from it. Jake's furrowed brow softened, a flicker of understanding swimming through his young eyes. So, if we can learn, we can get better? Exactly, she said, encouraged by his effort. But I want to help. He glowed with new resolve. I want to make everything okay again. Evelyn felt tears prick at her eyes. You already are helping, sweet boy. You have no idea how much. They stood there, 3 hearts beating within the shared space of revelation. Underneath the comforting glow of the stars, the burdens of the past felt lighter, if only for a moment, but the road ahead wasn't clear. Evelyn knew they had taken a step, but it was only the beginning. More truths waited, and soon, Jake would have to face those as well. As if reading her thoughts, Howard reached for her hand, reassuring her with a squeeze. Together, Evelyn. We face it all together. Jake grinned, the remnants of worry supplanted by hope. Right. We'll be like superheroes. We'll fix everything. In the flicker of incandescent dreams, Evelyn smiled, but dread whispered in the corners of her mind. What else would they need to uncover? She felt the winds of change picking up, swirling the dust of the past around them. With Jake's spirit igniting her own, she let it carry her forward. But what awaited them beyond this moment? Would the weeds the past held on to be as tenacious as she feared? Evelyn could only brace herself. She held tightly, ready to face the truth, knowing their real battle was just beginning. And beyond the stars, could the light lead them home? Evelyn felt a wave of warmth from Jake's unwavering determination wash over her. But as she looked into his bright eyes, the shadow of uncertainty crept back. They couldn't ignore the reality of their situation. The night held promises, but it also held truths that would demand their courage. Okay, Jake, she finally spoke again, taking a deep breath. There's something else we need to talk about. It's about your grandmother. The choices she made, they played a big role in our lives. Jake cocked his head to the side, confusion quickly morphing to curiosity. What did she do? Is she in trouble? Evelyn's heart ached at the innocent concern in his voice. No, sweet boy. Not right now. But her past choices, the ones connected to the debts I mentioned, tied our whole family into knots. Sometimes those knots made the love between us hard to see. Howard stepped closer. Your grandmother had battles of her own, Jake. She's faced a lot in her life. Decisions that, while made with love, didn't always lead to the best outcomes. Evelyn could see Jake trying to wrap his head around the idea, wrestling with the weight of knowledge. But she loves us, right? No matter what? Yes, absolutely. Evelyn felt a smile stretch across her face despite the heaviness. Love doesn't just vanish because of mistakes. Jake nodded, absorbing her words, but she worried it wasn't enough. Would he understand the true extent of the pain those mistakes had caused? Your grandmother had her own struggles with the weeds she needed to pull, just like we do, Evelyn continued gently. But the thing is, she never stopped trying to grow. Even through the hardest seasons. Maybe she can help us now? Jake suggested, a spark of hope lighting up his expression. We can all be superheroes together. Evelyn's heart swelled, but reality gripped her. It won't be easy. Those weeds are tangled and stubborn. I can help. Jake exclaimed, excitement seeping through his voice. Like a real gardener. I'll learn how to pull the weeds, and we can plant flowers together. Evelyn crouched down, pulling Jake into a hug. Oh, my brave little warrior, yes, you can absolutely help. But remember, this will take time, and there may be moments that are hard to face. Howard joined their embrace, wrapping his strong arms around both of them. The warmth and security held them like the gentle glow of moonlight. Together, we are stronger, Jake. Remember that no matter what happens next, we're a team. Reluctantly, they released each other, and Evelyn wiped at the tears that had begun to spill. Being vulnerable was a challenge, yet somehow, opening up had forged new strength among them. As the evening deepened, the fear of the unknown loomed. What if their garden became too overcrowded with weeds to see the flowers? What if confronting the past led to more pain than healing? Evelyn glanced up at the night sky. We need to talk to your grandmother. We need her to understand we see the weeds too, Jake. But she might not want to. Jake hesitated, his excitement faltering like the wind in the trees. I know. But this is part of our journey, and it's necessary, she replied. Facing her will be another step. The hardest one yet. Howard squeezed her shoulder, but she remained uncertain. Do you think she will help us? Jake asked, his voice trembling slightly. Evelyn let her breath hitch. I hope so, my brave little gardener. But we have to prepare for any answer. The air changed around them, thick with anticipation. As the stars glimmered down upon them and the garden lay silent, Evelyn felt the weight of possibilities. What would Grandma say when confronted with the past? With her heart racing, she knew they were at the edge of something immense, something that could break them or lead them into healing. And in the depths of her fears lingered a question: was their love truly strong enough to face what was buried in the dark? Evelyn stood at the door, hesitation creeping into her heart like the bitter chill of winter. She could hear her own breaths, steady yet shallow, each one a reminder of what lay ahead. Jake's small hand tugged gently at her sleeve, pulling her back into the present moment. His wide eyes were bright with determination, yet he didn't fully grasp the weight of this step. Are you ready, Mom? He asked softly, an unwavering faith shining in his expression. She nodded, though uncertainty pooled in her stomach. As ready as I'll ever be, Evelyn replied, forcing a smile. Howard placed a comforting hand on her back, urging her forward. They made their way to the door. Standing on the threshold of confronting the past, Evelyn knocked, the sound reverberating through her bones. It felt surreal, almost like standing at the edge of a cliff, peering into the unknown. What would Grandma say? Would there be anger? Regret? Or maybe she would embrace the truth? The unanswered questions hung heavily in the air. After a moment that stretched too long, the door creaked open. Evelyn's grandmother stood there, looking every bit the formidable woman Evelyn remembered, stubborn, resilient, and yet, somehow fragile. Gray strands framed her face, a testament to the burdens she carried. Evelyn? Her grandmother's voice was sharp, but uncertainty flickered in her eyes. Jake? Evelyn's throat tightened. Can we come in? We need to talk. The old woman hesitated but stepped aside, letting them in. The living room was dimly lit, memories trapped in photographs lining the walls. It smelled of dust and old secrets. Timidly, they surrounded the coffee table, the tension palpable. I didn't expect to see you, Grandma stated, crossing her arms defensively, her eyes darting from Evelyn to Jake and back again. Neither did I, Evelyn answered, her heart racing, but this is important. Jake, ever the brave spirit, leaned forward. We want to help, Grandma. We want to make things better. Such innocence. Such bravery. Evelyn couldn't help but feel pride swell in her chest, even amidst the storm brewing. Help? Grandma repeated, skepticism staining her voice. You think it's that easy? It's not easy, Evelyn replied, taking a deep breath to steady herself. But it's something we all need to face. Together. There are weeds in the garden, Grandma. Her eyes locked onto her grandmother's. And we can't keep ignoring them. Silence fell between them like a curtain blocking out light. Evelyn's heart raced, each beat echoing in her ears. How would her grandmother react? Would she deny the weeds, bury the truth deeper, or could this finally be a moment for healing? Finally, Grandma sighed, the walls of her fortress beginning to crumble. I've spent so long trying to protect you all from my mistakes. I don't know if I can face it. Please, Jake urged, his voice a whisper. We can be superheroes together. You just have to let us help. Evelyn watched as her grandmother's expressions shifted, the rigid poker face beginning to falter under the weight of Jake's innocence. In those cramped moments, hope sparked like a flickering candle. As Grandma's walls wavered, Evelyn took a step closer. Can we show you what love looks like with the weeds pulled? I don't know how, Grandma admitted, tears brimming in her eyes. Evelyn's heart ached. That's okay. We'll learn together if you're willing. The air cracked with anticipation, a fragile moment teetering on the edge of revelation. Evelyn's pulse quickened, wondering if they were on the brink of something transformative. Would they tear back the layers of hurt, or would they get lost amidst the weeds? In that instant, the weight of the past felt both heavy and hopeful, and Evelyn found herself yearning for answers but fearing the consequences. What would Grandma decide? Would love be powerful enough to pull the weeds after all? Evelyn held her breath, time slowing as she awaited her grandmother's response. The air felt electric, charged with the fear of what might unfold. Grandma's delicate fingers brushed across her cheeks, and for a moment, it seemed like she was about to crumble under the weight of the past. I don't want to hurt you, she finally said, her voice trembling, a mixture of vulnerability and resolve. But I'm terrified of what bringing this into the light might mean. Jake shifted on his feet, glancing between them, his little face etched with concern. It's already hurting us, Grandma. Not talking makes it worse. We want to help you stop feeling so lonely. Lonely. The word hung between them, stirring emotions so deep in Evelyn's chest, it felt like a stone was lodged there. She could see the flicker of shame in her grandmother's eyes, reflecting a life lived in shadows. You don't have to do this alone. We can share the burden, Evelyn assured her, inching closer. A shudder passed through Grandma as her barriers teetered. You don't understand. The mistakes I've made. Her voice faltered, becoming a whisper that barely filled the room. Pain I thought would die with me. I thought it was safer that way. But safety came at a cost that had left scars on all of them. Evelyn stepped forward, boldly reaching out to take her grandmother's trembling hands. They felt like fragile leaves in autumn, delicate yet yearning for warmth. You've carried this for so long. It's time to share the load. The corner of Grandma's mouth twitched. A smile faint but in there fighting to emerge from behind years of sorrow. Is it really possible to heal after all this time? She asked. Jake's wide-eyed sincerity seemed to fill the room. Of course it is. Love is stronger than weeds. We believe in you. A tear slipped down Grandma's cheek. You both have so much faith. I wish I had a fraction of it. You've always been our superhero, Grandma, Evelyn said, a lump in her throat. We just want to help you see that you can be one for yourself too. It felt like a pivotal moment, bridging decades of hurt with the desire for reconciliation. In that uncertain silence, Evelyn watched as Grandma's walls cracked a little more. It was as if the years of silence broke the dam holding back years of emotions. I can't keep hiding. What if it destroys everything? Grandma whispered, vulnerability emerging as she met their gazes. Then we'll rebuild, Evelyn vowed, squeezing her grandmother's hands gently. Face it together. We might surprise ourselves. For a heartbeat, it seemed they were suspended in some kind of fragile magic. And for the first time, Evelyn glimpsed something deeper than mere hope flaring in her grandmother's gaze, a glimmer of trust. I'll try, Grandma finally murmured, a fragile promise with so much weight behind it. Evelyn's heart surged with a mix of pride and relief. It felt as if they had planted the earliest seeds of a new beginning. But as hope began to bloom, another thought clawed at her. What seeds would they uncover? Would Grandma's past reveal wounds they weren't prepared for? Suddenly, a distant sound broke through the quiet, a child's laughter filtering in from outside, a reminder of simpler times. Caught in the warmth of the moment, Evelyn wondered who else might need to be included in this unfolding story. Just then, a knock echoed through the house, louder than before. The three of them jumped, glancing at each other. Who could that be? Would they bring more questions, or could they pose fresh opportunities for healing? Evelyn's heart raced again, shifting from anticipation to worry. The air thickened with uncertainty as she exchanged glances with Jake and Grandma. What if this was the moment that changed everything again? Taking a deep breath, she moved toward the door. What awaited them on the other side? Evelyn took a deep breath, steadying herself before she opened the door. The vibrant noise of laughter from the children playing outside suddenly faded as she pulled it back to reveal the unexpected visitor. It was Mrs. Collins, their next-door neighbor. Her eyes sparkled with excitement, a tray of freshly baked cookies in her hands. "Evelyn. I figured you might like some company," she chirped, her warmth filling the chilly air. Behind her, other neighbors gathered, their faces bright with smiles and laughter. Like the sun breaking through a cloudy sky, Evelyn felt her heart soar. Just when the weight on her shoulders felt heavy enough to break her spirit, here was the community that had been lifeblood all along. "Thank you, Rita," she replied, her voice steady but filled with emotion. "We were just about to have a chat." "Is that so?" Mrs. Collins grinned, glancing over to Jake and Grandma. "Well, we brought some treats. Maybe a little cookie party can help with those tough conversations?" As if on cue, Jake's eyes lit up at the word cookies, and the tension in the air eased a little. "Yay! Cookies!" he exclaimed, running toward the tray. Evelyn caught a glimpse of her grandmother as she too softened, her walls slowly lowering. Hearing laughter, conversations blending, and the ever-present warmth of community wrapped around them like a comforting blanket. Maybe this was just what they needed, a reminder of the love that surrounded them. With the cookies set on the coffee table, laughter erupted. Shelton, another neighbor, suggested a game that had everyone joining in. The atmosphere shifted as they engaged in friendly competition, smiles blooming among them. Evelyn watched, her heart swelling. In these moments, the walls built by silence began to dissolve. Each laughter seemed to break down barriers, each cookie shared pulled them closer, and they loosened the knot of uncertainty tightening around her. Finally, as the game wound down, Grandma gazed at Evelyn, her eyes filled with realization. "I never could have imagined that such light and joy could find us again after all these years." Evelyn stepped closer, taking her grandmother's hand. "It's all of us together. We faced a storm, and look at what we created, a little ray of sunshine." Grandma nodded slowly, taking in the laughter resounding around them. "All right, let us tackle this garden of truths together." Encouraged by the supportive warmth of her neighbors, Evelyn felt the courage building inside her. It was time for their family to be honest, to pull those weeds. They gathered in a circle, softened by cookies and commitment. "Can we talk?" Evelyn asked, voice steady but heartfelt, looking around as they joined hands. "Can we dig into the past together?" The circle of friends exchanged nods of affirmation. It was real. It was happening. Evelyn felt Jake grip her hand tighter, his face full of determination. "We believe in each other." Superhero time. Everyone laughed, and with that joy, Evelyn squeezed Jake's hand, feeling the courage radiating between them. Grandma's fingers intertwined with theirs, and she whispered, "Sometimes, love is found in unexpected places." "I'm ready to face this." That simple sentence cracked open the dam of unspoken pain. All the unsaid words tumbled forward, wiped away by the laughter that still lingered in the air. Each revealing piece began to paint a picture not of grief, but of renewal and growth. As the sun began to set, casting a golden hue over the warmth inside the house, Evelyn realized they were no longer burdened by fear. They had transformed it into hope, illuminating the path ahead. In that moment, they all understood a family bound not just by blood, but by a shared journey of resilience and healing. They could tackle anything together. They embraced, enveloped in a feeling that echoed, "Love always finds its way," and as they shared stories, planting seeds of the past to make way for a blooming future, Evelyn knew this was just the beginning of their journey. They still had weeds to pull, but they were armed with the strength of love, unbreakable and unwavering. Evelyn's heart danced at the thought. There would be struggles ahead, certainly, but they would face it all together. Together, they would grow. This was more than just a story. It was a call to action, a powerful reminder to embrace connection, to cultivate love even when it felt hard. It whispered to anyone watching, urging them to reach beyond their own pain and wrap themselves in the warmth of unity. Don't wait not even one more second to share this power in your own life. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories that can inspire a transformation just like this. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and keep this message alive. Comment your reactions and feelings about this ending the struggles, the healing, the hope. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Only true fans understand the importance of spreading love.